Okay, thanks for joining the Darien Library this morning. We are so lucky to have Anna Gass, who is a chef, a cook, a culinary expert with us this morning. She has written Heirloom Kitchen, which I just showed you, but I'll show you again, which is available at Barrett Bookstore, our lovely partners. We want to thank the friends of the library who make these programs possible. And let me tell you a little bit about Anna. She grew up in Rhode Island. Before moving to New York City for university, she spent a stint in the corporate world and then decided it was time to go to the kitchen. She signed up for the French Culinary Institute in Lower Manhattan, and she developed a niche for test kitchens and has worked with Whole Foods, Mad Hungry, Martha Stewart Living, and Food 52. She is now currently employed by Feed, a whole new cooking, culinary lifestyle blog, an app, and take a look at that after the show. So before we go, let me tell you to put in questions in the Q&A box and we'll answer them afterwards. And Anna will give you some tips on Thanksgiving too. So sit back and enjoy.
Hello. My name is Anna Gass. Kathleen, thank you so much for that introduction. We are here to talk all things Thanksgiving. Very excited for that. We were all discussing how, last year was kind of different, obviously. COVID kind of changed our world, changed how we celebrated. And I think if Halloween is any indication, Thanksgiving is going to be pretty big this year. People are out and about and they are really trying to get back to some sense of, let's call it the new normal. And so I know myself, I'm definitely going to be entertaining and I want to make it really special because a lot of us are all, we're all back together again. So I'm just going to do a really quick demo of a special little tart that I make for Thanksgiving. And then that we'll put that to bed and we will just discuss Thanksgiving in general. If you have any questions, concerns, or just anything you want to share with the group, I think that would be really fun. Tips, tricks, hacks, anything that you do to make Thanksgiving a little bit easier in the kitchen. Okay, so the recipe I'm going to show you today is actually called ricotta alla viscaiola crostata. So it is a crostata, which is an Italian pastry tart, and it has a sour cherry jam, which is what viscaiole means in Italian. It's a special small sour cherry grown near Rome. And it has also ricotta cheese, which gives it a creamy cheese flavoring. So it's a double layer tart. And we'll talk about also how you can customize that. So the first thing that you want to do, obviously, anytime you're making a tart or pie, because Thanksgiving is coming, we're making a lot of pie, is just make sure that you really have a nice, delicious, high quality crust, right? Because it's a nice case that all of our fillings are in, but it's always part of every bite. So you want to make sure you have a nice crust. So the nice thing about a crostata in Italy is that you make a very easy butter crust, and I do mine right in the food processor. It does need an hour to chill in the refrigerator, so I made mine ahead of time. But just quickly to run through that with you. In my food processor, I put my flour, I put a little salt, a stick and a half of unsalted butter, very, very cold, 2 eggs, and some sugar. Now, because it's Italian and Italians love to flavor their desserts with fruits, I did put in a grated lemon peel. You could also do grated orange zest if you wanted and give it an orange aroma. Those are the 2 very, very popular zest combinations in Italy. I went with a lemon, and I also have lemon in the filling because it just kind of highlights that delicious tartness with all the sugar. Now, you can make this crust weeks ahead of time. And that's, I think, my very first kind of Thanksgiving tip is if you are going to be baking, if there's any desserts that can be made ahead of time, or even just components of the dessert, get it out of the way. The last thing you want to be dealing with the day of Thanksgiving, even the day before, is making pie crust. It's, it's a whole mess and it causes a different situation in the kitchen. So you don't want to have to be going back between savory and sweet. So my crust get made the week before. And then, I would say 2 days before Thanksgiving, I start baking everything off, wrap everything up really tight, and hide it from the family so no one gets into it. But pies actually, 2 days out taste delicious. They taste great. No one will ever know they're made a couple days before. And when you go to the bakery and you're buying them, believe me, they were not made that morning. Let me grab my crust. I did go ahead and plop it back in the refrigerator because, just to let you know, because there's a lot of butter in this. It's a high content butter crust. It's going to get soft really fast. So you're going to take it out of the refrigerator. You're going to let it set for like 15 minutes because when it comes out, it's going to be very, very tight, like a rock. I'm going to beat it down a little bit, get out that Frenchstration. I'm going to show you when we do the topping. And then I use, what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to just lower this now that I've done, just so you can really see what I'm doing here. So what I did was actually have 2 layers of parchment. Put parchment on the bottom, a whole bunch of flour. Flour is going to guarantee you to not have it stick. Then I put down the dough, and then I put another piece of parchment on top, but again, more flour. Flour, flour, flour. You have a very tender, soft dough. It's okay to add a little bit of flour because that's just going to get into the dough. It's why the actual recipe is only 2.5 cups of flour, because I already know that I'm going to be adding more to the bottom and the top. It's going to help me from just having an easier time getting it in and out of the parchment. So I'm going to remove that top parchment. As you can see, I got a lot of flour there. And now I have this beautiful dough that I rolled out. And if you roll it out and then pop it back in the fridge because you feel like it's getting too soft, that is okay. Your dough will talk to you. If it starts getting really soft, if it starts tearing, just stop, put it back in the fridge for another 15, let that butter tighten back up, and then get going. Now for my pan, I like to use a fluted pan. You can use a quiche pan, you could use a spring bottom. I've seen this made a million different ways. This is like I was saying, it's a nonna dessert, grandma dessert. So these crostatas come in so many shapes and sizes. Do not feel like it needs to be perfect. It's all about the flavor. I love to buy these. I get them online from kingarthurflour.com. I love that website for all things baking. Not an endorsement or an ad. I just love it. I want to give you some tips. And they actually create these circular liners, which I love. I buy the pre-cut rectangular ones. I buy the little ones. I buy them in all the sizes because I just love to have it ready, not have to, cut it out myself. I know it's going to fit perfectly. Then, excuse me, I do like to, little drop here. I do like to just put a little bit of spray. I know I have my parchment, but it doesn't hurt. And to be honest with you, and this is another Thanksgiving tip, sometimes I run out of pie plates. So to have a pie that once it's fully cooled, I can pop out of the plate and put it on a serving plate is great because then I wash this and I can make something else, or I can make a second one if I want to. Because we don't, I'm a chef, so I have a lot, but I run out of pie plates. All right, so have this. I'm gonna actually give it a quick fold in my hand. Hope it comes right off for me. It does. Got a little bit of a tear, but that's okay. And now I'm gonna get it into my pie plate like that. Pull off the rest. See how it released, but it only released because I had so much flour. If I had not floured that parchment, even though parchment is very great as far as release, with a very, very high content butter dough, it is going to stick on you. Now, kind of blanketed this over. I'm going to lower this so you can see. I'm going to just shimmy this all in. All right. And this is a tender dough. Now, again, this is a demo. I had it sitting out. So I'm definitely dealing with a softer dough than I probably like, but that's okay. You all weren't here. I could just pop this back in the fridge, let it cool, you let it get cold again, and then play with it again if I felt like it wasn't doing what it needed to do. But this actually went in very nicely. And I'm going to press it up against the sides, and I'm just going to tip it so you can see. And as you can see, it went in nicely, making sure it's all up against the side, pressed in. I sprayed it, so I know this isn't going to stick later. Now, as you can see, we have this overhang. So what do I do there? Not a big deal. Just going to take it. Now you can do 1, 2 things. You can cut it smooth if you want that look, I actually like the extra dough. So what I do is I just kind of tear the extra off, but not all of it. You know, you could actually take your rolling pin and just roll it along the top, and all of that will come right off. Okay, but I'm just going to tear off like this. It tears very easily. You can also use a nice knife and cut it if you want, but it's not necessary. All right. And then move this away so you can see. All right. And now all I'm going to do is just kind of press it up. And that's the nice thing about a fluted edge is you don't have to worry about, you know, creating that really pretty pinch and pleat. That'll be a lesson for another day. For today, we're just going to go around and just kind of create like a nice little lip. That's what I'm going to call it, little lip. If I see a spot that doesn't really have as much, I can add it. If I see a spot that has too much, I can tear it away. And we're going to do a crust on top. So the way this looks on the bottom isn't super duper important. You're not going to see it all that much. So you don't have to stress out that, you know, it doesn't look good. Then I just kind of push it up like this. And I'm actually, because it's very soft right now, okay, and you don't want your dough to be too soft, I'm actually going to take this dough, I'm going to put it in the refrigerator while we finish, because then it's going to harden up. And that's a good thing because the actual filling, you know, only really needs about 45, 50 minutes to bake. It's that crust that you want to cook up. So if it's too soft, it's going to cook too quickly and it's going to burn. And we don't want that. So I'm going to put this in my little fridge down here. All right, and we're going to move on to the filling. So once you know how to make that dough, sky's the limit. You can do so many things. And like I said, because it's going in a food processor, you're not really worried about, you know, did I overmix it? Did I undermix it? You get it in, you pulse, pulse, pulse. Don't turn it on and run away. Pulse, pulse, pulse. Once you see that it's completely combined, stop it, take it out, flour, knead it out. And then you have a dough that you can do so many things with. You can make a galette with this. You could make mini tarts. It's just a really beautiful scented lemon dough. Okay, now let's move on to the filling. We have two parts to this filling. The first part of the filling is what makes it so famous in Rome, and that's the viscaole, or in English, sour cherries. Now, you can't get those sour cherries here. They're actually quite special in Italy too. They're only in season for like 1 month, like between middle of May and middle of June. So there's a few bakers in Rome that make this pie exclusively around that time, and everyone kind of runs for them, and then they jar them. So obviously the baker can make it all year, but it's this one special time of the year that they're available. Now, what I do here is you can do a couple things. If it's summertime, then you can actually, like a Whole Foods or some of your more fancier grocery stores will actually sell you sour cherries, which you can do. But my hack, and it's also a recipe in my book, Heirloom Kitchen, is for a sour cherry jam that I can alter with just frozen cherries. So what I did this morning was I got a big bag of frozen cherries and I made my sour cherry jam with it, or just cherry jam. Another thing you can do is just buy a cherry jam at the grocery store and skip this stuff entirely. But what I did, I made it homemade, and it's just cherries in a Dutch oven, like anything, just a pan or a pot that's heavy bottomed, and a little bit of sugar, and you just let it boil down, and you get this beautiful jam. So that's going to be on the bottom. On top of our jam is a ricotta filling. So first question I'm sure someone's going to ask, I've been asked this many times when I make this, can I use a different jam? Of course. You don't like cherries, you don't want to use cherries, you happen to have some, I don't know, apricot jam laying around, or, you know, grape, whatever you want, whatever you enjoy, absolutely just use a cup of it and spread that on the bottom. Another thing that Italians do, and I love this, and it's this exact recipe, but instead of a fruit bottom, they'll do a chocolate bottom. I've seen it done with Nutella or just melted ganache. So you could actually make this a black bottom, the crostata, chocolate on the bottom, ricotta on top, and that's a whole nother dessert and equally delicious. Okay, I have like flour on my nose. All right, so let's make this really simple cheesecake type filling. So what I have here is 2 cups of ricotta. The reason that it's in this is I let it drain overnight. Let's see if I can show you. There's a little bit of water on the bottom. We just want the ricotta to be as dry as possible. If you forget to do it or didn't do it, it's not terrible. Just instead of adding, let's say, you know, in this recipe, we're going to add, excuse me, 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour, you could add 2 just to help absorb any of that extra liquid. So I'm going to put that in there. And then I'm going to put in 2 eggs. Right, this is just going to help fortify it, make it nice and tight as it cooks. All right, so we have our 2 eggs. Now, like I said before, there's a couple of different ways that you can customize this. I love to use almond extract. I love to use lemon zest. Like I said, you could do orange zest. So you can do, you could do vanilla extract. You can do whatever you want to make this just scented, you know, just a little bit more special. I'm going to go with the lemon zest because I had it in the crust, and I love transferring flavors from one component to the other, because then when you're biting in, it's really enhanced, you know. So for example, me personally, if I do a lemon zested crust, I'm not going to do an orange scented filling. You can, if that's what you like to do. But for me, I just like to kind of have uniform flavors. I like to elevate, bump flavors. So I'm taking a bite of crust. I get a little bit of lemon. I'm taking a bite of the cream, the creamy, you know, ricotta filling, and I'm also getting some lemon. So then obviously to this, I'm just going to add, where's my salt? Oh, 1 second, let me grab my salt. Sorry about that. It just happens to be in the wrong spot. All right. Sometimes people move things on me. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to add a little bit of salt. And just because I love it and my kids love it, I am going to add a little bit of almond extract. I think it just adds another little layer there. And like I said, you can go vanilla, you can, but I do think that lemon and almond really complement each other. And I love it in this recipe. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of mix this up. Get it kind of going. I can already smell the lemon. I can smell the almond. And those are the things that are really going to make this different. Look, I know we're all going to have pumpkin pie. I know my family loves pecan pie. But for me, to have 1 or 2 desserts on the table that are different and not kind of the run of the mill, I think that's really great. Now, we're going to add a little bit of sugar. This is also up to you. You can add a lot of sugar if you like things extra sweet. Italians are known for not so sweet desserts. That's why they eat, a lot of them will actually have a piece of crostata for breakfast. Italians don't really have eggs and bacon. They'll usually have a baked good with their morning cappuccino. And the reason it's kind of makes sense, kind of acceptable, is they're not overly sweet. They're not overly indulgent. Italians don't use frosting on everything. Things are not super, super sticky. So the fact that they, you know, come down in the morning and, you know, this might get served after dinner, but then they'd serve it again, you know, with a little bit of coffee in the morning, totally acceptable. definitely happens. And it's one of the things I really enjoy about going to Italy, because I am also not really a bacon and eggs kind of girl. And I don't really like pancakes or French toast. I'm not really into syrupy things. So to kind of have a morning cappuccino with a small piece of crostata, I love it. And I think the day after Thanksgiving, when you kind of wake up and you're exhausted and you don't feel like making breakfast for everybody, you can put this out on the table and it is just amazingly delicious. Now, as you can see, this batter looks very viscous, but don't worry about it. We put 2 eggs in here and we did put some flour. So this is going to bake up quite nice. All right, now I'm going to get my dough back out. And actually, you know what? Let's move on to the top. I know people get really nervous about topping their pies. Now, this is why I think you're going to also love this. When you make a traditional, let's say, apple pie, it's all about that lattice crust. And there is a little bit of an art to it. It's actually very simple, you know, where you're just kind of laying those pieces on top of each other so that they're overlapping. Well, Italians don't bother with that. When they do a crust, it's very simple, it's very thick pieces, and you literally just lay down 3 and then lay down the others. You get a beautiful diamond pattern, and it's a little bit less mind work than the lattice crust. So just want to show this again, just because we talked about it. So I have 2 pieces of parchment. I have the rest of my dough. So what I did was I didn't cut the dough in half because I needed a little bit more for the bottom than I'm going to need for the top. I did about 2/3 of the dough on the bottom. And now this is about 1/3 of it on the top. As you can see, heavily floured. I'm going to put some parchment on it. I'm going to flip it. It's already getting sticky. And then I'm going to put a little bit of flour on the top. Now, some people will flour with confectioner sugar. I do not, because I do not feel, oh, see that? That's good. It just slipped right out. And you can also do it right on the marble or your granite countertop, whichever one you have. I find this parchment just gives me, like I said, a little bit more insurance that I'm not going to get stuck with a really soft dough all over. Now, this is rolling out because I've had this sitting out, but probably for more than 15 minutes. I would suggest no more than that because it starts to get very soft, as I can feel that it is. But it's no big deal. We're going to work with it and it'll be good. You just want to roll it out to about a 1/4 inch thickness. You don't want your dough to be super, super thick, but you also don't want it to be too thin that you can't manipulate it. I'm going to cut this piece off, or you know I'm not going to need it. And I'm just going to keep working this. And it rolls just like a dream because of the fact that it's got all that flour. Okay, great. All right, so we have our dough, nice and thin. I'm going to add a little bit more flour, just because I want to be able to cut it nice. If you don't have a kitchen ruler, I absolutely say to invest in them. I love them. I think I got this on Amazon years ago, and it just helps me do so many things in the kitchen. I also use it to lay out my dough. The other thing I like to have on hand is one of these. Again, something, I got this one in Italy. You can get it on Amazon, and all it does is create a really pretty edge. But you don't have to do that. You can just, you know, obviously use a knife. So like I'm going to do this. Get rid of the excess. This guy's sticking on me. All right. Now I'm actually going to use this because it's about 1 inch. The kitchen ruler that I bought actually is about 1 inch. So I'm just going to make inch long, inch long. All right. So I have these, and now I have my 5. Now we're going to get our dough out, our bottom out. It should be, see, so this is like so nice and hard now. Just so great. Right, move the excess out of the way. First, I'm going to take about a cup of this. All right, and just see what I got. And, you know, I like to keep those juices in there too. And I have extra for another day, or believe me, that tastes so good on some toast. Right, and then that is just going to get pressed down. I'm going to just move it around. Just want to make sure that every slice is going to have a little bit. Okay, so just really just play with them. My hands here and show you what I got, how pretty that looks. Now, just going to go ahead and pour this beautiful filling on top. And those little cherries on the bottom are going to be like a surprise. And I've seen this made 2 ways. I've actually seen in Italian bakeries, they'll put the cherries on top and the cheese on the bottom. But I like it this way. The other way I've also seen it is instead of a lattice top, or a diamond top, I've seen it where a fully covered, where you don't even bother making these and you just cover it right up. I just like the look of lattice. I think it looks great and it just reminds me of the holidays. So what I'm going to do, and this is so ridiculously simple, you're not going to believe it, is take my crust, this piece, and as you can see, I'm going across it diagonally. I'm not doing straight. And honestly, you can do absolutely whatever your heart desires. But this is how I like to do this. Okay, so I did that. And now, let's see here. Put it on there. And now I'm just going to make a diamond. It just broken me a little bit. Let's fix that. I'm going to do a diamond across. So because I'm now going this way, we'll have a diamond. And I apologize if you're having a hard time seeing. I am going to hold it up for you when I am done. Okay. Perfect. And you can do 2, but I actually think I have enough to do a 3rd. So I'm going to do a 3rd across this way. Okay. Just adjust this over a tiny bit. Go and do 3. But usually I do 2. Today I wanted to do 3. Hands. I'm just going to give it a quick tilt. I can't tilt it too much. Actually, maybe I can. There we go. The wonders of Zoom, trying to show things. Okay. See that? See that beautiful diamond? All right. Can't tip it too much. Don't want to end up with my filling on the thing here. All right. Now, really simply, I'm just going to take a knife, cut off my extra lattice. Okay. Where I need to. A couple more pieces over here. Okay. And just press this lattice into bottom crust and just have this really pretty rustic tart, you know, with a little bit of elegance from the cut, just like that. Now remove all this extra out of the way. Okay, now I have it. Now at this point, you have a choice. You can just bake it off like this, or again, and I wouldn't do this regularly, but for the holidays, I will add a nice egg wash top. And the reason I will do that is because with my egg wash top, I can just add a little bit of sanding sugar. And the reason that I do that is because then when it comes out of the oven, it kind of has a lovely glisten to it from your sugar. And the sugar I have here is this one, but you know, I want to get the package. Let me show you the package so you can see, just so that when you're in the store, and I actually got this at Walter Stewart's here in New Canaan, but it's called Demerara sugar. Some people call it raw sugar, but it's really nice. It's brown, and it has a little bit of a crystal look to it, crystal shape, so that you can use it for, you know, just kind of finishing. It's a finishing sugar. All right, so let me go ahead, egg wash, just gonna beat up an egg. And again, this is totally optional, not necessary. Just gonna put some of this egg wash on top. All right, and it just, you know, it just gives us a nice sheen. It also, for me, you know, as not like a professional baker, it also helps me know when it's done. Because if I see a nice browning to my crust, I know that that crust has cooked through, and the bottom of the crust, which I obviously can't see, has gotten to a point where it's no longer raw and has a nice, you know, brown crunch to it. All right, so that goes on. Then I'm just going to go ahead and put this really pretty sugar on top, which is just also going to make it look really nice on the table. My filling's not too sweet. My cherries have a nice tartness to them. And also, I don't know if I mentioned, I think I forgot, I added some lemon zest to my cherry jam too. So there's just really this beautiful floral lemon taste running all the way through. I think I need a little more of my egg wash over here. And that is that. So this actually has to cook for 50 minutes. So I do have it on my Instagram at Anna F. Gass. You can look up the video, a nice slice cut out. When you, it looks very much like this when it's done. Just gonna show it to you really quick. There you go. And yeah, you're just gonna get that lovely cheese on top and the cherry on the bottom. So I'm just gonna get this out of our way. In the oven. All right, so that is an Italian crostata. Like I said, I make them all the time. I always love to have them as part of my holiday festivities. And I would love at this point to just open it up. And if there's any questions, I've kind of given you a few of my different tricks and tips along the way. One other one that I'd love to just share is, you know, when people show up to your home for the holidays, it's always kind of like a big rush of people. You're still in the kitchen. So even though there's going to be a ton of food and everyone's going to have plenty to eat, I always make sure to have a couple of items out because people have traveled, they're hungry, and it also keeps them out of your hair and out of the kitchen. If there's a little buffet set up, cheese, crackers, doesn't have to be anything elaborate, have the drinks out. And of course, they will not be bothering you in the kitchen if they have something to nosh on. So Kathleen, is there any questions in the chat? Mute
myself. Here we go. Yes, we have, well, first of all, someone wanted the name of the cooking website that you recommended. When you were talking about the circle.
Yeah, so it's kingarthurflour.com. So the company that makes probably the most famous flour here in the United States, King Arthur Flour, they have a website. And of course, they sell their flour on the website. But more importantly, they just sell every single supply you could ever think of for baking. So like I said, I get those parchment sheets on there, but even like the other things that I showed, like this kitchen, not this particular one, but a kitchen ruler, a fluted cutter, literally anything that you could need to bake with, they have thought of it and they have it in their shop. It is an incredible, incredible website for all things baking.
Also, do you want to talk a little bit about your new feed? Because I didn't know if it was an app, a website.
Oh yeah, so I've recently taken a job as a senior editor at a company called The Feed. Their Instagram is at The Feed, and if you go on their website, which is just thefeedfeed.com, it has zillion recipes. It's a community. You can log on, create a username, and also just upload your own recipes. They run contests all the time for free bakeware, free cookware, free chocolate. Like they're always working with all these fun brands. So it's just a really fun website to check out if you love all things cooking.
Yeah, that sounds great. We have a question from a viewer. What is your typical plan of attack for the week of Thanksgiving to make it less stressful?
That's a great question. Believe it or not, I actually start 2 weeks out. The week of Thanksgiving, I have school-age children. So come Wednesday, they are already home half day. So I really only have Monday and Tuesday, the week of Thanksgiving, to get things done. And that's just not enough time if I want to have a stress-free Thanksgiving day. So 2 weeks out, I do all my shopping. So what I'll do 2 weeks out, I go through all my food magazines, I actually keep my menu from every year. So I know what I made last year, what were the fails, what were the successes, and I pick out my menu. So that's, let's say 14 days from Thanksgiving, I've decided what my menu is. Then I make my shopping list. And then from my shopping list, I will head out to the different stores that I need to go to. You might want to go to a cheesemonger. You might want to go to, a specialty shop. Also, you don't always have to be a hero. Some of the stuff that you're going to serve, you might know that you love the prepared cream spinach from, your local grocer. So put that on the list. It's okay to put some things on the list that you don't prepare at home, that someone else gives you a little help with. Same thing, like I said, for appetizers. If you want to do a charcuterie board, maybe you have that made by the store. Or even, I love Costco, believe it or not, even as a chef, some of that little frozen appetizers that they make, my kids love. So don't always feel like you have to make everything by yourself. One, most people won't even be able to tell that it wasn't homemade. And two, it just kind of frees you up to focus on things. I always say, better to focus on 3 or 4 things and do them really well than do 100 things not so great. So that's that. Then I go to the grocery store, I get all my stuff, I get what I need. Please order your turkey now. I don't know, they're saying that there's some sort of turkey shortage. So I actually ordered my turkey yesterday. That's just a quick tip right there. And then, like I said, 2 weeks out, I start thinking, okay, what can I make that's going to last or can be frozen? So I don't know, maybe it's an Italian thing. We always have lasagna on Thanksgiving. So that I'll make 2 weeks out and I'll freeze it because I know that's going to stay and that's going to be delicious. And I can defrost it the night before and bake it up in, that morning and then just heat it before we eat. I'll also chop up all my vegetables. I'll get everything in bags so that I know that, like, if it's something that I just have to throw on a baking sheet, it's done. It's in a bag, throw it on the baking sheet and get it in the oven. Just anything that you can prep either a week ahead, 2 weeks ahead, and just kind of keep it, do that. Anything that I can do that doesn't have, because look, you got to cook the turkey the day of. Nobody's getting out of making turkey on Thanksgiving. So anything I can do before that and free up my oven, because you know that turkey takes up a lot of space, that's what I do. So yeah, 2 weeks out, anything that, any casseroles, if you make any casserole on Thanksgiving, whether it's lasagna or green bean or whatever it is, all that stuff freezes really well. One thing my family loves is potato gratin. I will make that the Monday before Thanksgiving because it takes forever to cook. It's like those potatoes never cook through. So that I'll just take a Monday morning, get it cooked, and believe it or not, stuff like that tastes better heated up than right out of the oven.
All right, we have a lot of Thanksgiving questions coming in. What is your favorite day after Thanksgiving recipe using leftovers?
I love this question. And I have to say, my favorite thing is actually something so simple, but I am a huge lover of sandwiches. I always have been. I love a good sandwich. So before Thanksgiving, I'll always buy a really beautiful loaf of bread, ciabatta, sourdough, just something really, really good. I always have it for the day of Thanksgiving. Nobody ever eats the bread. If people are eating the bread, that's because the food's not good. So the bread doesn't get eaten. And I have I have like a beautiful artisanal loaf. So the next day, I will make the ultimate turkey sandwich. So it's got turkey on it. I take my cranberry sauce. I add it with a little mayo. I make like a cranberry aioli. So that goes on there. I get the turkey on there. So that's a little bit sweet. I love to put on a little bit of sriracha for some hot sauce and just to counterbalance that sweet cranberry aioli. Then a little bit of stuffing goes on there. Heat up some stuffing that goes on there. You can fry up some bacon. You can lettuce, tomato. This is like a big stack sandwich. And I always serve like a baked brie on Thanksgiving. So there's always a little bit left over. So a little bit of brie goes on there. Put it in a, panini press or, just in a cast iron and flip it. That's my favorite.
Sounds easy. Sounds delicious. Someone asked, how many desserts would you make for a party of 15?
So first of all, if you're having 15, some of your guests should bring dessert. And that's something that I learned later in life. I used to always be the hero. What can I bring? Oh, nothing. Don't bring anything. That's hogwash. If 15 people are coming to your house and you're cooking, absolutely. If you know that you have a menu and you don't want anyone bringing anything that might not match or might duplicate, just say, bring dessert. People love to bring dessert. They usually don't make it. They'll get it from a nice bakery. And it's one less thing that you have to do. If I had 15 people coming, I would probably do 3 to 4 pies and then maybe a cookie plate and a cake or like brownies, just to give people like a variety. And desserts never last. So if you don't eat them the day of, and you can also send home guests with leftovers. But, on Thanksgiving, people are usually indulgent and they'll take a piece of pie and then they'll grab a cookie or they'll grab, a brownie and a piece of cake. Like some people usually have more than one, so you don't want to run out.
That's quite the dessert spread. Here's another Thanksgiving. Oh, 2 more Thanksgivings. Can you offer any cost saving suggestions to prepare a great Thanksgiving, but sort of on a dime?
Yeah, look, I think that Thanksgiving is definitely a collaborative. So if you're trying to save, having people pitch in is always helpful. And then, another thing, and I didn't mention this before, but there's nothing to say that on Thanksgiving, it has to be, the typical Thanksgiving fare. And I will tell you, before I go to the grocery store for my Thanksgiving prep, I'll look to see what I have in my pantry already. Look, we all overbuy. We all have leftover this, leftover that. And if I can kind of repurpose some things that I have in the refrigerator or the freezer or the pantry and kind of create a dish with stuff I already have, it saves me money at the grocery store. It keeps food waste kind of going down because look, we all need to have less food waste. And the other thing too is you don't have to be overindulgent on Thanksgiving. If you're trying to make things on a dime, then, don't have 20 things on the table. Have your turkey, make a starch, make mashed potatoes. Everyone loves mashed potatoes. Make something green, a nice veggie. And then maybe one other thing. I think people really end up spending a lot of money on Thanksgiving or holidays in general because they have 45 dishes on the table. You don't have to do that. Even for dessert, it's okay to just have, one pie and maybe some ice cream. Keep it simple. That's going to keep your food costs down and also keep the waste down, which is what is really important.
I have two questions that kind of go together. Both are looking for space. One is looking for more space in the refrigerator to keep, she says she runs out of space all the time. And the other one, same thing in the oven. How do you coordinate the cooking and the baking?
Yeah. So again, that's why I don't do any baking on Thanksgiving. I can't deal with the stress and the same thing with the oven space. So if it hasn't gotten baked before Thanksgiving, we're not having it for dessert. So even if you want to do it the day before, but pies, cookies, brownies, those are not in my oven on Thanksgiving Day. The other thing is, I think people feel this pressure to serve everything hot, whereas most foods actually taste better closer to room temperature. So when you figure out what you're making, especially with those casseroles, pulling them from the oven or making them the day before, and then that morning, have them out on the counter, or not that morning, but like, let's say an hour before dinner, take them out on the counter 2 hours before dinner, let them come to room temperature. Okay. Because everything takes longer to cook or reheat straight from the fridge. Then I rotate them in. So, the lasagna will go in nice and hot, then it comes out, sits, because your whole kitchen is very warm. The oven, the whole aura around the kitchen. So even leaving something on the stove covered in tinfoil, that's going to stay warm for a very long time. The other thing that I would do if you don't have a lot of refrigerator space is invest in a couple of really big coolers. Believe it or not, coolers are great. They keep everything really cold. 2 coolers in the kitchen, lots of ice. You can store so much stuff in them. And, I just fill them up the morning of veg, eggs, milk, things that, you don't need to have in the fridge. Get them in the freezers. Get them in the coolers, get them out of your way. And then at the end of the night, when you're kind of assessing what you have for leftover, then you get everything back in. But at least it frees up that area and it allows you to just kind of keep them out of the way. And if you have a nice insulated cooler and lots of ice, that stuff is safe. It'll stay nice and cold for hours.
One of our audience is hoping that we will provide the recipe. So would you send that to us? I don't think it's absolutely in your book, is it?
No, the recipe for the sour cherry jam is, okay. But the recipe for this is not in my book, hopefully in book 2. And I'll send you the recipe for that.
For people who aren't familiar with your cookbook, would you tell them a little bit about it?
Yeah, so my cookbook is called Heirloom Kitchen. It came out in 2019. I'm very proud of it. I went around the country cooking with immigrant grandmothers. I am the child of an Italian immigrant, and my mother spent my childhood cooking foods from, her home country. And I wanted those recipes written down. My mother didn't have anything written down. So I started with my mother, and then I ended up traveling around the US with other women from other countries that had done the same. So it's about 40 women, 35 countries represented, and it's just really a collection of dumplings, goulash, Korean food, Indian food, all those Mexican food, all those women that came here continued to cook their food, and it's the food that we get to enjoy today in the United States because we are a country of all these different nationalities that have come together.
Okay, we have another question that's not Thanksgiving based, but what would be your easy dish for company?
Sweet or savory?
Savory, I think. Dinner.
Okay. Just in general, a really easy dish. Like almost like too many to think of. You know, I really love roasted chicken thighs. I think they are the unsung hero of the kitchen because they have a ton of flavor and they really require very little for you to do. So there's actually a recipe in my book. It's called arroz con pollo. It's just chicken and rice. And the chicken is just heated and kind of browned in the Dutch oven with some spices. And you can do whatever you want. You don't even have to follow the recipe. Like if you want to do Italian, you do oregano, olive oil, thyme, some onion, cover that up, bake it. That's it. And it comes out and it's moist and it's delicious. And chicken thighs, you really can't overcook because they just get more and more moist. And then a nice side of rice or veggies, or you could do a pasta. But I think if you're not, really, and it's also cheaper, chicken thighs are cheaper. You can do them skin on, skin off, bake them up, breadcrumbs. You could do butter, olive oil, could do Spanish style with a little paprika. I just think if you want to do something simple and not that expensive, chicken thighs are always a great way to go. Just Google baked chicken thighs, and I am telling you, you will have a zillion recipes to choose from.
Good tip. Someone asked, would this recipe work with apples?
Yes, if the apples were cooked. So you wouldn't want to put raw apples on the bottom, but if you made an apple compote, which is a really fancy way of just saying, dice up your apples, get them cooked in a pan with a little bit of butter, let's say cinnamon, sugar, just get like a nice soft, almost apple jam out of it. Won't take more than 20 minutes to get that, achieve that, cool it. And then, yeah, you could absolutely do that with apples.
Sounds good. What's a piece of equipment, kitchen equipment that you can't live without?
I think everyone should have a food processor. I know that they're a little bit clunky, a little bit busy, a little bit expensive, but you can make so much in a food processor. Doughs, you can chop up vegetables, you can chop up, you can make shredded potato. I mean, I use my food processor all the time.
And this is a selfish question. What can you make with porcini mushrooms? Because I have a huge bag of dried porcini mushrooms.
So first you're going to want to reconstitute them.
Yep.
So you get hot water and you put the dried mushrooms in there and you reconstitute them. And then once they're soft, you could just cook them with anything. I love making them with pasta. So what you do is you just saute butter, a little bit of shallot, you get your porcini mushrooms in there and you just get them nice and soft and savory, add a little splash of wine, just to kind of make a nice base. And then when you kind of made a very dry base, I take some of that porcini water and throw it in and you get a nice gravy. And then over pasta with some grated Parmesan cheese, delicious.
That's dinner. That's dinner tonight. I think we're coming to the end of our questions. We have, I have all the ones from before that people sent in, answered, and now we're just getting compliments and people saying, thank you so much.
Great.
So wait, we've got one more. Oh, sorry, someone else is answering. Yeah, people are saying this was great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I think you've given us a great new dessert as well as help us with Thanksgiving, which is always a fun, challenging cook-off. Oh wait, one more. When are you getting your own show? That's what someone just asked.
Thank you so much. Well, listen, I really appreciate that. I do enjoy doing this. And I'm easy to reach at Anna F. Gass on Instagram, at Anna F. Gass at Gmail. So if you have additional questions or you're just freaking out about Thanksgiving, reach out. I always try to respond to everyone. If you follow me on Instagram, I always have inspiring things there. And I do. I love doing this. I love being in the kitchen, and I'll let you know when Hollywood comes calling.
All right. Well, I imagine it'll be soon. So I think we're coming to the end of our hour, and you've given us so much to think about. And I wish we would be here to see that come out of the oven, but I think you'll have a bunch of people trying it today.
Yes.
So thank
absolutely.
you. Thank you as always, Anna. How's it look?
No, not cooked. Sorry, guys. But yeah. So great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And we'll hopefully see you soon.
Yeah.
Happy holidays, everybody.
We'll see you soon. Thanks for your help, Anna. Good
Bye
night,
now.
everyone.